yourselves and each other a round of applause. I think you will see when you get your mark sheets back. We try to have as many comments on the mark sheets as possible, so that you guys can have an understanding of why were you given this mark, where can you improve, so on and so forth. You understand what I mean, right? But two very important things I need to mention. Too much detail without any evidence is as good as nothing. You understand what I mean? We woke up at 5 a.m. in the morning, we went to Matthew Koniwe Leadership Academy, we had speeches the entire day, we did this, blah, 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 blah. I'm reading all of that information, but as I page through your portfolio, there's no proof of that. Do you understand what I mean, right? So some of you did a very good job at capturing the evidence of the work that you've done, but some of you fell short. You narrated a whole lot of detail, but gave very little evidence for it. And I have to emphasize it. I think in the 2-3 years that I've been doing YCAP, the schools that always come out on top are the schools that can produce evidence for the work that they've done, not the schools that tell all the stories. You understand what I mean, right? So have a balance between the two. Yes, it's very good to read it. It has a sense of theatricism in it. It gives me a mental picture of what could have happened. But if there's no actual picture of what happened, it's as good as non-existent. Are we together, right? The other very important thing, whenever you mention that we had to raise 5,000 rands, and from this 5,000 rands, we spent 2,000 rands. We need some form of evidence that this is what you did with that 2,000 rands. Are you with me? Right? At your schools, you have clerks, do you not? At your schools, you have stamps, do you not? So just to authenticate, if you come with a piece of paper that just has numbers on it, and there's no stamp from the school, there's no signature from the principal, there's nothing from the clerk, which shows that these learners actually did bring 2,000 rands into the school's kitty. And as much as it is evidence, it is not convincing. Are you with me? And that's what you guys want to do. You want to see to it that while we are sitting here and we are going through your files, we are convinced that this thing actually did happen. Are we together? Another very important thing, yeah, I think this will be the last thing, and if you guys want more information, I think it will come at the end. Right, ladies and gentlemen, public speaking is an art. Are we together? Public speaking is a skill that you harness. Are you with me? Right? It's like playing soccer. When you play soccer, you won't pass the ball to your opponent, will you? Okay? When you're playing basketball or whatever, you are going to see to it that everything is in your favor, right? So there's a very huge problem that some of you have, especially with word selection. Are you with me, right? Imagine if I was giving this oral adjudication to you, and I said something like, yo, these presentations are great, hey, but some of them were just utter rubbish. Do you understand where the skill of public speaking comes in? So teachers as well as learners, you need to be able to learn how to choose your words, especially when you are constructing your presentations. That's the very first thing. The second thing, PowerPoint in relation to portfolio, right? You guys can see how big this portfolio is, right? It would not make sense for you to have the same weight in a portfolio as you would have on a PowerPoint presentation. PowerPoint is specifically to summarize whatever is in here, not for me, right? Because I'm only going to take 10% of whatever it is that you're presenting. 90% of what I want is inside this portfolio. Do you understand what I mean? Right? So number one, I cannot even begin to explain how many websites, how much online resources there are that can give you tips on how to use Microsoft PowerPoint. That's the first thing. There was a school that used Microsoft Word. Microsoft PowerPoint gives you the convenience of not only summarizing your presentation in order for us to understand what you are talking about, and in order for us to have a visual image of what it is that you're talking about, but it also serves, when you have a PowerPoint presentation, you won't need notes in your hand. you won't need to be reading through anything. You look at the PowerPoint presentation, there's one sentence on it, you already remember what is this about and you're able to explain it, right? But that will only happen if you rehearse your presentations. Don't rehearse it the day before you come for a YCAP competition and expect miracles that you're going to remember everything. That's not how it's going to work, right? Rehearse your presentations. Have cues for one another. If I'm going to say something and I'm going to stop somewhere, he needs to know that this is where he picks up and that's how the presentation flows. Because if Gabriel Moharadze and then he comes along and sort of like tries to pick that up, it's going to show, and it shows just disorganization in your team. You understand what I mean, right? So rehearse your presentations before you come. Have mock presentations in your classes. Do it with other learners, even if they're not part of YCAP, right? Because they don't know what you're doing. Make a presentation to them, and if they are bored at your school, chances are when you get here, you're going to bore other people as well, right? If you're not a humorous person, try to identify your strength. If you're analytical, use that as your strength. If you're humorous, use that as your strength. If you have a good voice, use that as your strength, right? Use whatever strength you have as a speaker and exploit it as much as possible. Not only will it give flavor to your presentation, but it also gives a very convincing burden of proof. Do you understand what I mean? Right? So yeah, that is all from me, but if you have any other questions, you are far more than welcome to consult with me and the other adjudicator at the end of the session. Well, you're good. Thank you.